All right, folks, we are staring at a split screen that sums up everything that's wrong with America right now under Donald J. Trump's presidency. Now, on the one side, we got Melania Trump, arguably the most elegant first lady that we've ever had, triggers a full-blown meltdown inside of Vanity Fair. Staffers threatening a mass walkout because of the mere idea of Melania Trump's face on a glossy magazine cover sent them into hysterics. Now, think about that, guys. A photo causes elites to collapse. Comment down below if you think that Melania Trump is the most elegant first lady that we've ever had. Now, on the other side, the streets of Chicago, looters are ransacking Whole Foods, kids and adults filling their bags like it's a free-for-all. And there's no cops, there's no arrests, just chaos. That's not a grocery store anymore, guys. That is a third world collapse. And it looks like what's happening right here in America. So ask yourself this: what's more dangerous, a first lady's photo on a magazine cover, or a city that's being torn apart by criminals while politicians and media elites are sipping wine and lecturing us about compassion? Guys, we have to talk about some breaking news right now. I want to break down how these protected politicians like Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago keep armed security for themselves while you get left with defenselessness. Plus, the real truth behind these ICE raids that are they're actually being blocked by screaming activists right there in Chicago, guys. And why the same elites are melting down over Melania Trump's photo. They're cheering criminals in the street. It makes no sense. I know, guys, this ain't just a story about a magazine cover. I promise you that. This is a story about a country that's split in two: elites in meltdown mode and real Americans that are living through collapse. All right. Today is August 29th, 2025, under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump. And look around. We're living in a country that feels kind of like it's fighting on two collapsing fronts at the same time. So on the one side, you got these cultural elites, people at Vanity Fair magazine, who are supposedly the tastemakers of America, in full-blown hysteria because the editor dared to consider putting Melania Trump's face on the cover. Now, what's wrong with that, guys? Would anybody vote for that, for Melania Trump to be on the cover? A glossy photo of our first lady sent them into a frenzy. Staffers are threatening to walk out, saying that they will not normalize a despot and his wife. Wow. Guys, this is about how sane this is. And so on the other front, you got street level chaos. Chicago, where the looters are ransacking Whole Foods and Walgreens, stuffing bags like it's trick or treat. Kids, adults, whole mobs are turning these stores into these free-for-alls, and nobody's stopping them. There's no police, there's no arrest. So here's the crazy thing, guys, and I want you guys to feel this, okay? When the media treats a magazine cover like tyranny and the streets descend into third world anarchy, you already know America's not dealing with politics anymore. They're dealing with survival itself. So now I want to talk about that meltdown, okay? So Vanity Fair's editor floats the idea of Melania Trump on the cover, and the staff threatens a mass walkout. Can you even imagine that? Like, one person even said, "I will walk the bleep out the door and half my staff will follow me." They call Melania and President Trump despots. Like, they say we're not going to normalize them. Wow. So here's the real situation, guys. Are these people really defending democracy, or are they just kind of prove that they can't handle a first lady who isn't theirs? Because let's get the record straight, guys. Michelle Obama was on the cover of Vanity Fair multiple times. Joe Biden made the cover during Joe Biden's term, but Melania Trump, she's only been on Vanity Fair Mexico back in 2016. So why is she being treated differently? Is this because she's not part of their club, because she doesn't parrot their politics? Or maybe it's because she reminds them that the Trump family can't be erased no matter how much the elite scream. But here's a real kicker, guys. These same staffers who think a glossy magazine cover is the hill to die on, they're the same people who are going to write these glowing features about Hollywood predators, about corrupt politicians, and never even bat an eye. But Melania Trump, that's the line. Yeah. Okay. So now here's where it gets really freaking ugly. So while they're over here hyperventilating over a photo, real Americans are living through chaos and collapse. Looters are tearing apart Chicago, Walgreens, Whole Foods, kids with bags of stolen goods, no accountability, no arrests. And I want to get into that in just a second because you need to see just how misplaced these priorities really are. But let me ask you this. Which is the bigger crisis? A magazine cover of Melania Trump or looters destroying neighborhoods and terrorizing families? The elites, they want you to think that the photo is the crime. But look outside. The streets tell a completely different story. And trust me, guys, it only gets worse because we're going to break down the insane contrast between media elites melting down over Melania's face on a magazine and the kids in Chicago that are tearing apart these grocery stores while politicians lie and say that crime is down. Oh, and then wait until you hear about this hypocrisy of Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson hiding behind these armed guards while leaving you and your family completely defenseless. Now, who is depending on you to get your coverage right? Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe your grandkids who worry about you more than you know. Well, this is why I partner with Chapter, folks. They don't just match plans. They actually make sure that your coverage supports the people who you love. Now, one viewer said it best. I sleep better knowing that my grandkids won't have to bail me out. Guys, so here's the choice that you have to make. Will you be the one that your family has to rescue, or are you going to be the one who already took care of it like most people are already doing? Now, most people are calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen right now, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. The phone number is 909-563-8279. So here's where the contrast becomes completely impossible to ignore. So on the one hand, you got Vanity Fair staffers patting themselves on the back for threatening to heroically walk out over a Melania Trump magazine cover. They call that bravery. They call that resistance. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you got kids in Chicago. Yes, guys, kids stuffing bags full of stolen goods from Walgreens and Whole Foods, laughing, cursing, daring anybody to try and stop them. Some are so young, they don't even know half the curse words that they're yelling. But what happens to these kids in like 10 years, right? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to them. They become the same kind of criminals that are burning down cities today. So let's go ahead and ask the obvious question, shall we? Which is the bigger crisis? A glossy photo on a magazine cover, or mobs tearing apart neighborhoods and families who have to live with the destruction? But the elites, they don't care about that. They obsess over symbolism while real people suffer. And so the proof of their disconnect is staring us right in the face. Let's talk about the politicians who are supposed to lead these cities. Governor J.B. Pritzker, when President Trump floated the idea of sending the military into Chicago to restore order, he mocked it, said that he would fight in court. Where was he when he said this, right? He was smiling for the cameras. He was standing on a boat, safe, protected, all right? Then, of course, there's Mayor Brandon Johnson, who looks Chicago in the eyes and says that crime is down. Crime is falling. This is one of the safest cities in America. Is anybody buying this? Like, is he really for real with this statement? Like, tell that to the people who just watched Whole Foods get looted. Like, tell that to the families dodging bullets every single weekend. And here's the punch, guys. Both Pritzker and Johnson travel with armed security. They roll deep. Why do they need security if it's so safe? 7, 8, 9 bodyguards. Every one of them is carrying. So of course they feel safe because they have armed security guards, right? Of course they can laugh off Trump's military plan, but what about you? What about the regular citizens walking into stores that don't have concealed carry weapons permits and they're seeing that their cities and their stores are turning into war zones? How do those citizens feel, right? And does anybody understand where I'm going with this here, guys? Does anybody see what they're doing in these cities? So here's a situation we really got to wrestle with here. Like, why do they get walls of security while ordinary families are left unprotected in these crime-ridden cities? Safe for the elites, deadly for you, right? So Here's the part that really ought to kind of piss you off. These same politicians who deny crime is real, they're the same ones who block ICE from removing criminals. The same ones who stand behind activist mobs screaming at law enforcement. And that's exactly where I want to go next, because I want to show you the insane footage of ICE agents raiding a Chicago apartment only to be swarmed by activists screaming, "You're not a cop. You're not a cop." These are people who are physically blocking law enforcement from taking criminals off the street. And the same elites who are melting down over Melania's face on a cover, and they're cheering them on. So here's the part where things go from bad to unbelievable. Picture this, guys. ICE agents in Chicago raiding an apartment. They're trying to remove illegal criminals. These are the kind of people the community begs to have taken off the street. So then what happens? Well, they're immediately swarmed by activists, shouting, spitting, getting in their faces, screaming over and over, "You're not a cop. You're not a cop." Can you imagine that? Officers of the United States government sworn to uphold the law, being told by these self-appointed street lawyers that they have no authority. Now, one lady's mouth was just so foul, they had to bleep almost everything that she said in the entire video. But here's the kicker. These activists, they weren't protecting families. They weren't saving innocent people. They were blocking ICE from removing criminals. So here's the situation. Like, whose side are they on? Law enforcement or the lawless? And so here's where it really connects back to Melania Trump. The same elites who lose their minds over her face being on a magazine cover, they're the same ones that are applauding when the mob scream at law enforcement and let these criminals walk free. It's all connected. So let's talk about the cops themselves, because it's not just ICE. Even Chicago police who try to enforce the law, they're being neutered at every turn. Take the tactical units. They stop drivers for infractions like seatbelts, hazard lights, minor traffic violations. Some of those stops escalate pretty fast. Within 60 or 90 seconds, drivers are cuffed, cars searched, and the footage makes headlines. But here's the part that nobody talks about. These drivers walk free, no charges, and then they sue the city. And then they walk away with checks, big checks. Like one man walked away with $80,000. That was taxpayer money, guys. That was your money. Anyway, meanwhile, you got oversight agencies like the COPA, the COPA. They're stacking up complaints, 50 or more in a single year. They're painting these cops as the problem, not the crime wave that's swallowing Chicago whole. So here's the situation you got to sit with, guys. Are cops really out there brutalizing citizens? Or are lawyers and activists brutalizing the cops, tying their hands while the murder rate soars? Because make no mistake, this isn't about justice. This is about shutting down law enforcement entirely, leaving criminals unchecked and keeping citizens defenseless. So if you thought that was bad, wait until you hear where this is headed next, because I want to break down the scene that shocked even hardened Chicagoans, looters openly ransacking Whole Foods, brawls that are breaking out, kids treating theft like it's a party game. This isn't America anymore, guys. This is what a third world collapse actually looks like. And so I think we're at a breaking point, guys. The image really just pretty much says it all. Whole Foods in Chicago, looters pouring in like it's open season, kids filling their bags, older mobs brawling in the aisles. I mean, you got these doors being kicked in, not a single cop in sight. Nobody's getting arrested. Nobody's being held accountable. This isn't a grocery store anymore. This isn't a city. This is what a third world collapse actually looks like. I mean, and it's happening right here in America. And yet, and you wouldn't think that Whole Foods would allow this, but yet while Whole Foods and Walgreens are being turned into these free-for-alls, families are dodging bullets and they're watching their neighborhoods crumble. During all of this, what does Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago say? That Chicago is one of the safest cities in America. Safe? For who? Like, is anybody buying this? For him, with his taxpayer-funded security detail, okay, maybe it is safe, right? But for the governor, hiding on a boat with armed guards, sure, I'm sure they both feel safe. But what about you? What about your kids? Do you think your kids are safe out there? So here, what about your grandkids? Are your grandkids safe out there, right? So here's the rhetorical push, right? Is this America, or is this a country that's lost control of its cities? Because from where I'm sitting, it really doesn't look like the land of the law and order. It looks more like chaos. So that kind of brings us full circle all the way back to Melania Trump. Like, think about the split screen that we just laid out here tonight, okay? On the one side, you got a first lady that's so powerful, so elegant that just the idea of her photo on a glossy Vanity Fair magazine cover sends media elites into these hysterical meltdowns and walkouts. But on the other side, streets are on fire. Looters are ransacking stores. Neighborhoods are collapsing. Politicians, they're lying about safety. So which is a real danger to America, right? Is it a first lady's photograph, or is it leaders and elites who refuse to face the collapse in front of our eyes? That's the America that we're living in today, guys. And so here's the truth. We cannot afford to ignore this anymore. The elites, they're going to scream about Melania Trump. The activists, they're going to protect the criminals. The politicians, they're going to surround themselves with security while leaving you exposed. But you know better. You see the chaos. You live with this reality. And, you know, if we don't call it out, if we don't demand accountability, then Chicago's collapse becomes every city's collapse, because it's just going to keep happening. So I want to just go ahead and leave you with this, guys. Do you think America can survive leaders who treat Melania Trump's photo like tyranny while ignoring the fact that our streets look like war zones? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, guys, because this fight, it's not just mine, it's yours too. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you next time.